Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to move directly to session 5, and it's titled Technology Presentation. And I would like to apologize for the attendance of my brother and colleague, Dr. Makiol, because he's a little bit sick. Inshallah, Rabbani yashfi bismillah. We'll start first by our dear friend, Mr. Nidar Gouda, who is the Regional Business Manager of Molecular Imaging at Siemens. And he's one of the most informed guys in this field, and I think his presentation is, as always, a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Nidar.
Assalamu alaikum. I first want to thank the committee for giving Siemens the opportunity to present at this Society of Nuclear Medicine in Egypt. With that being said, I would like to kind of highlight what has Siemens done in the last couple of years in terms of innovation and introduction to the marketplace. So maybe a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but I'll try to stick with the time. And I know a lot of hungry people here as well. Just to give you a quick synopsis of what Siemens is, we are part of four segments of Siemens that include energy, infrastructure, cities, industry, and healthcare. And in healthcare, we have imaging and therapy, which we are as molecular imaging part of. Our biomolecular imaging facilities span around the world, with the SPECT imaging is manufactured in Hoffman State, Illinois, which is suburbs of Chicago, and the PET-CT cyclotrons, preclinical imaging, radiochemistry, etc. is in Knoxville, Tennessee. We have a biomarker research facility in Los Angeles, as well as the CTs are in Forsheims, MR in Forsheims, Oxford. We have clinical applications, Bangalore, India, and Shanghai, China, where we have the low-end CT. We are proud to say that we do have over 43% market share in molecular imaging worldwide, and that is due to our innovation, which I will be speaking to you about shortly. We also, if you look at the top 10 ranked universities in the U.S., our molecular imaging support these research facilities fully. And if you look at what we have done as a company as a whole, Siemens AG, in terms of research and development, money spent over the years, billions of dollars, we are ranked number 8, and I believe we are twice our competition. Innovation leader is definitely the motto of Siemens over the years. We have done quite a bit of innovations, from the introduction of the Anger camera back in the 60s to today's new innovation, which I will be speaking to you about, in SPECT, in MR PET, as well as in PET-CT. If you look at the portfolio of the Siemens molecular imaging, it includes what I call the foundation. And the foundation primarily is the cyclotron, which is the backbone of PET. This is an 11 MeV, fully shielded, fully automated system. And it is capable of making not only the conventional isotopes that we all talked about today, meaning the fluorine, the carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, but also copper-64 and iodine. Included in the foundation, we have the research facilities, which produces and develop new biomarkers to the marketplace, i.e. FLT, fluorothymidine, and recently we just joined with Eli Lilly and a compound called the AB45 for the assessment of Alzheimer. And primarily we're looking at the amyloid plaque buildup in the brain. We also, and Dr. Majdi, yesterday he was a fantastic presentation, preclinical, and he did mention that he worked on one, I believe, in London, Hammersmith, which has the combination PET, SPECT, and micro-CT. And if you look at the clinical end, we have the dedicated gamma camera, dual-headed Symia-E gamma camera, as well as the Symia-T, which I will speak briefly about today, and that is the combination of SPECT and CT. We range in slices from 2 to 16 using diagnostically CT. And with regard to the PET-CT, we have a range that goes from 16 slices, 20 slices, 40, 64, and 128 in the MCT, and recently we introduced the MMR, which is a combination of PET and MR. And briefly, I forgot to mention, these particular modalities are supported with the state-of-the-art with regard to the SPECT, the Symbionet, and with regard to the others, the single via. Now, we all looked at nuclear medicine as being an unclear medicine over the years, and it's shameful because it gave a lot of good information. But that changed drastically with the merger of the CT and the SPECT. And today we are able to see beautiful images where we can delineate nodules and abnormalities, whereby we are able to merge the physiology with the anatomy. So with that, we introduced the Symbia T, which is a dual-headed gamma camera merged with a CT scan. And I think if you look at all the industries, we all do make very good gamma cameras, and no exception. However, there are unique features, and Dr. Othman spoke about that yesterday, that would differentiate one vendor from the other. And we have done quite a bit in the last couple of years in order to be at the cutting edge, trying to make a system that has high throughput, a system that has the best clinical education, as well as provide patient safety and comfort. And also, it was mentioned yesterday that there is a huge emphasis on dose cutting. And we have done quite a bit with that regard, and I will talk about that briefly. Now, one of the things we've done is to reduce the image time with regard to whether not just in cardiology, but also in whole body imaging. This is a 17 normal whole body image, 17-minute whole body image of a patient. And if I could do the same with the same scan parameters, an 8.5-minute image, this is what you would get, and that's typically not very clear. But with reiterative reconstruction and the proper software, we have introduced OncoFlash, where it has cut the image to 8.5, and as you can see, the quality of the image is pretty much the same. And the same thing we did is on CardioFlash, where we introduced arithmetic reconstruction, and I think was spoken about yesterday with other vendors, and we are able to now reduce the scan time from 17-18 to about 8-minute cardiac acquisition. And as you can see, this is the full-time acquisition, and this is the half-time acquisition in rest and stress. So the images are pretty comparable. And another thing that we've done recently is the formation or the manufacture in which we actually manufacture our own receptors for our gamma cameras. And we reduced the thickness in here, which ultimately provided for a very high sensitivity, which is greater than 26 higher than the conventional collimators that is being used today. Now, the challenge also always been, how can I even go further from the 8-minute, or we were 16-minute, we went down to 8, and now can I go further down? And the answer was very clear. We were able to reduce the time of acquisition from 16 minutes on a cardiac scan down to now 4-minute cardiac scan. How did we do that? And also we reduced the dose drastically. This was done with what we call the IQ SPECT. It's the smart zoom collimator, whereby the heart is always centered onto the two heads of the camera, and actually the scan is done, like I said, in less than 4 minutes. And if I move to the next slide, I think it will clearly show this is the conventional way of scanning the heart. If you are not in the center, you will miss it. So ultimately, what we've done is we focused on the heart, we doubled the area. So, and then, as you can see, the collimator, it was canonical in shape, and as we move away, it was more parallel, so that means we eliminated truncation. And with that being said, what we have done with IQ SPECT is we practically introduced 3 elements. One being the smart zoom collimator, the second being the cardiac centric acquisition, meaning that the heart is always in the center of the detectors, and the third, of course, the IQ SPECT reconstruction. So we went from the conventional 16 minutes cardiac scan to 8 minutes with the CardioFlash to IQ SPECT with only 4 minutes and almost 1/4 the time and 1/4 the dose. And these are the images. This is a 13-minute conventional scan. As you can see, there's a defect in the apex shown very nicely here as well. And so, and if you look at this image as well, In rest and stress, these are 14-minute scans, and this is a 4-minute scan. So for the eye of the nuclear medicine physician, I don't think there's a difference between the two. And this has been done, as you can see, on the same camera. This is a Siemens low-headed camera. I think the move is not working properly. Let's see if it works. It does not. That's okay. We tested it, and it worked. Also, so I don't know what happened now.
Yeah, maybe if you click on.
Yeah, no, it's just froze completely on this computer.
Is that on this computer?
No, it's at the shaker. So I guess we just delayed the dinner for lunch for 10 minutes. We're not taking it froze. For the interruption, so I'll continue. So the objective was to show the conventional gamma camera doing the acquisition, which typically, as I said, would take about 14 minutes versus, there we go again, I think, so I'll move on to the next one. This was a site in Canada where they had the same camera performing on two different days. One doing approximately 12 patient acquisition in a typical 8 hours, and with the IQ spec, this particular day they made 35 patients with the same scan. And as testimonial, the last SNM and ENM, the conclusion was 4-minute cardiac corrected perfusion imaging with IQ spec provide images of comparable quality and normalcy to that of typical standard spec CT imaging. Another thing that we are using in our CT is the ultra fast ceramic, which provide for a very fast detector response time. And ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, the CT used on the SPECT imaging system with the Symbia, regardless of whether it's the 2 or the 16, is a high quality diagnostic CTs, as can be attested with these images, which I, for the sake of time, I'll just pass right through it. And another thing we've done recently is the introduction of full automation to the system. This included, of course, for a long time we had the full automated auto contouring with over 5,000 systems installed with this particular feature. But what we have done recently is the introduction of the automated quality control, which is done primarily by the system without any operator intervention. All the intervention is done by the computer. You can set it up as a technician the day before, and when you come in the morning, your system is completely normalized and calibrated, and it's ready to go. So that should save quite a bit of time and also exposure to the personnel. Another thing we've done with regard to calibration is the introduction of the auto collimator changer. Today we are able to collimate or change the collimator two sets of collimators sits actually in the patient handling system. And it's fully automated with a push button. The system will perform the complete removal and retraction of the collimators and replacement of the new ones. Now, I just want to make a note in here that the high-res collimator will not be supported by this particular feature. Or not the high-res, but the high-energy, sorry. The high-energy cannot be supported by this particular feature because of its weight, so typically it's set undercut. But for the medium energy, all-purpose collimators, typically it is supported with this particular feature. As I mentioned, the CT is real. It's very diagnostics, and also it has all of the features that we have on our CT product line when it comes to dose reduction, etc. As I said earlier, it is spiral CT, and also it has the dose care, which means that we are able to modulate the dose to the various parts of the patient, which ultimately will reduce the dose to the patient as well. And of course, the speed is unprecedented. And just a comparison with the conventional system regarding the amount of activities, or the competitor system regarding the activity to the patient. As you can see, there's a huge difference between the amount of activities provided to the patient, and you can see that dramatically is reduced when it comes to pediatrics. The system is nicely upgradable, so you can upgrade the CT from 2 to 6 to 16. You also can upgrade to the IQ SPECT, which we mentioned, as well as the productivity features, which I have mentioned also. That included the auto collimator changer, as well as the QC, automated QC. Now I'm going to switch gear, leaving nuclear medicine and SPECT, and talk a little bit about what we have done. So when it comes to what did we do differently on the MCT, and the video that I really gave you a good tutorial, but I'll try to do as good as the commentator on the video. When we get a case as such, whereby we do the initial imaging and then we find a lesion, and then to say, okay, what is the decision to treat this lesion? And that would be whether we go to chemotherapy, surgery, or radiation therapy, or we can say there's nothing we can do. And in this case, we say, okay, we'll go with chemotherapy. And as you can see, there's not much change by looking at the lesion. There's not much change in size or the intensity. And so we say, okay, now let's change the therapy, because it seems like this chemotherapy, the patient is not responding very well to it. Well, if we are to have a very precise SUVs and quantification of these lesions, we can tell at this particular juncture, when we did the initial imaging, we have about 10.64 SUV. And ultimately, if we look at the follow-up therapy, or the follow-up scan, we see that the SUV actually has decreased drastically. And so instead of changing the therapy, we should continue with the therapy. So indeed, having a good quantification will definitely help us staging and treating our patient. The same thing can be done in cardiology. With this particular patient, if you look at this image, you'll say, yeah, well, it looks pretty normal in all three areas of the heart. And so do we do something? Do we give medication, or do we have the patient go to angiography? And in this case, they say, well, there's nothing we can do because it looks pretty normal. A year later, this patient had a heart attack. Now, what happened? Well, it seems that this patient had a triple heart disease. And ultimately, if we look at the SUVs, there is a drastic decrease from the norm. And indeed, we should have done angiography and avoided the patient suffering the heart attack later on in life. Same thing can be said also with regard to neurology. In this case, a patient comes in with some dementia. We scan him with FDG, and we say, yeah, there is no Alzheimer there, but 5 years later, this patient developed Alzheimer, and indeed, there's atrophy in the brain. And so, what did we do wrong? Well, evidently we did not quantify it properly, because if we have the right biomarker, as I mentioned with the AV45, which is very typical now, very good imaging agent, which would attach itself to the amyloid plaque protein, as you can see, we will see an increase in this particular area, which is above the norm, and indeed this patient has Alzheimer's. So quantification definitely will play a huge role, not only in oncology, but I believe also in cardiology as well as in neurology. And we have done quite a bit in order to get to the quantification level, so I will talk very briefly, and I know my time is very short, with regard to what we've done in order to get to that point, whether it is the quantification with reproducibility, with regard to the finest volumetric image accuracy. Also, how did we do to reduce the dose and increase the speed of the scan, whereby today I am able to do a complete whole body scan in 5 minutes. And also what we've done with regard to engineering clinical flexibility in the system itself. So with regard to the quantification, we looked at 3 different categories that we thought that are critical to get good quantification. One of which was making sure that you are normalizing on a daily basis, not waiting 90 days before you normalize, because your tubes will eventually drift. And when they drift, you will have bad information. Secondly, we have done is the smart correction, especially when it comes to attenuation correction. I will speak to that in a minute. And the other thing we've done, of course, is with regard to the software. We are now looking at SUV peak instead of volume or max, and we're looking at the absolute perfusion and the ratio analysis in neurology. And I mentioned with regard to the quality control, it's very critical that we perform daily normalization of the detectors, and the reason is because you will see a drift over time if you wait the norm, which is about 90 days before you do your normalization. And if we do it on a daily basis, this is the type of result you will get. You will eliminate the drift in the tubes. And with regard to the conventional table design that has been used today, that is typically what would happen. So ultimately, this video will work, and it's not going to block me. So if you can see, slow but going. Typically you will see a deflection in the palate as the patient go into the scanner, and of course that's going to affect the merger of the CT and the PET, and ultimately that also will give false results, whereby in the case of what we've done with the smart patient handling system is we have unique what we call patient handling system, whereby the whole system moves, and so there is no deflection whatsoever, as you will see in here, and ultimately you will have a very good merger of the images, both physiology and anatomy, helping us in the attenuation correction for these images, and ultimately provide for accurate information. And I mentioned the advanced clinical application that we have done with regard to the SUV peak, and in cardio, and the absolute myocardial blood flow in onco here, and in cardio here, and in neuro, of course, with the ratio analysis. Now, some other things we've done recently, and you know, I think we're all looking for the same thing as physicians. I'm not a physician, but as physicians, we are all looking for to see the smallest details. We also look for to delineate from the background, so we need to have very good contrast. We also need to have good uniformity, because every machine will give you a perfect image in the middle, but what happens when you go outside, when you go to the edges? And that is really the key. So what we have done over the years, and also of course you want to reduce the motion, especially if you are looking at the heart area or in the lungs. So what did we do in order to improve on all of these parameters that are key to providing a good image? Ultimately, we have introduced HD chest which reduced tremendously the motion, especially in the long area. We have enabled uniformly all across the field of view, and that is due to the Sharp and the HD PET, which was introduced a couple of years ago. We also increased the contrast by introducing the time of flight and HD PET collectively, and also we increased the resolution with the optimized D as well as the G-Sharp and the HD PET. So we have done quite a bit. And another thing that I am very proud to announce is that when it comes to the volumetric image accuracy, we are by far has the finest volumetric image accuracy, due in part to the crystal sizes and geometry, as well as the way we are reconstructing our images in a 400 by 400 matrix. And ultimately, we have received recently the best image quality by this group, and our competition were ranked accordingly. And I mentioned that everybody's striving to reduce the dose, and rightly so, because Dr. Othman made a very good comment yesterday in his presentation that the government is looking very, very hard, not just in the U.S., but I think it's global. And I think we owe it as an industry, not just Siemens alone, but I think everybody, to look at this very closely and to make sure that we are not overexposing our patients. And we have done quite a bit over the years, not only on the PET, but also on the CT in order to reduce the dose as much as we can. And we have done quite a bit on the CT. And for example, number one, we were the first company to introduce LSO, which is a very fast simulator, which cut the scan time and also the injection of the amount of activity. We also, and I will come to this one in a second, we also did the modulation with the CT, with the CareDose 4. We also we reduced the amount of activity that can be or exposed to the patient, especially pediatrics, with CareKV. We adapted dose shield. We are now reducing over 25% of the dose to the patient, especially on the CT. And recently, we introduced this feature. And what that feature is called TrueV. What ultimately we did is we increased the field of view from 15 or about 16 centimeter up to 20, almost 22 centimeter. So primarily today I am able to scan the patient much faster, and typically it takes approximately 5 minutes for a complete PET study from head to toe. And with that, I am able, in one field of view, I can cover easily the long area, and especially if you are worried about motion correction, etc. And the last thing we did is with regard to the clinical flexibility of the system. As you can see, the bore is about 78 centimeter and up to 500 pound table for our patients, especially in the southern part of the U.S. This is very much needed. We have a lot of heavy people down there. And so ultimately what we have here is a 78, which is very much amenable to radiation therapy as well.
Who's the enemy?
Sorry?
Who's the enemy? Who is the enemy?
No need to say it.
I will not talk about the competition. They all have good machines. Now, one of the trends, and my colleagues from the U.S. will attest to that, especially with the reimbursement, has gone down in the U.S. in the recent years, and not just in imaging, but across the board in healthcare. And that was an initiative from the Obama administration to cut costs and contain healthcare spending, because it's a very large bill that we are paying. And so ultimately, a lot of the people who are in PET and trying to justify to their administrators that we need PET in here. If they have 5 or 6 scans a day, I mean, with 5-minute whole body scan, you can finish in a couple of hours. So what do you do with a multi-million-dollar machine? You cannot let it sit idle if you do not have more than 6 or 8 patients. So with having a very good state-of-the-art diagnostic CTs, up to 128 slices, a lot of our customers today are utilizing this machine as a dedicated CT scanner as well. And so I think this is very good justification to purchase a system like this, because at the end of the day, you can utilize it for your CT imaging as well. I have to show this because I love this country. I attended the first Egyptian Nuclear Medicine Conference here. I remember you, good doctor, when I think it was in Harteg.
Yeah.
I was there. That was the one and only I attended, and that was the second. Of course, that would not be the last time. And I put the slide in here just to show that we got a long way to go in here. In terms of catching up, we really are underutilizing a good technology. Not because I want to sell it, but I think it's a good medicine. I've been in this field for 30 years, and I really seen it grow from the basement at the University of Chicago to where it is today. And it will be, we're doing our people here in the region a disservice by not really investing in that. Now let me switch to something really revolutionary, because we always have been the innovators, and we pride on that. Maybe we are not the best marketing company in the world, but we are very darn good innovators. And this is the latest from Siemens, who was introduced at the RSNA a year ago. And we practically merged morphology, physiology, and biochemistry in one. And so with the introduction of the PET-MR, where we have practically merged the two, and now sequential is now simultaneous, and MR and PET are one. Now you only need one examination room, you only need one exam to the patient, you only need one whole body solution, and with a very short scan time, and of course unprecedented image merger. And so the challenge, as we all know, is here. How can I put my PET detector assembly into the image? And so for years we worked on that solution, and ultimately what we have done is we took the same detector we are using today on the PET, which is the lithium orthosilicate, the LSO, and we use technology called avalanche photodiodes as the channel to take the signal to the back-end processors. So we eliminated any elements that can be magnetized into the system. And so ultimately we came up with a solution. It took us quite a bit of years, I think almost 8 years before we introduced the first system. And this is a whole body system with a 3T Tesla. Same specification for the PET as you would have on the typical system. And let me just show you a quick synopsis of how this is done. Typically, if the movie was, but my movie is not working today. That's okay. I mean, yeah, it's slow. That's okay. I should have used my computer. But typically, the objective here is that you do not have to do the MR and then the CT or the PET separately in a separate room. Rather, you can do the whole thing in one shot. That's okay. I'm taking too much time, so I'm almost done. So potential is now reality. Why do I say that? Because really we are just scratching the surface with regard to the potential applications when it comes to ethanol. And Siemens is not going to be the one who's going to dictate to all of its customers as to what application will be amenable. It's got to be you, the users. And I think now there's some odd 20 systems sold, with 12 in research facilities, one of which is in Munich. Dr. Schwagert has one of those. And they're doing pretty darn good work, and their Mass General is another one, I believe Emory University and others. So at the end of the day, the users will come up with the applications. And I believe the applications are numerous. And we can see tremendous possibilities in neurodegenerative diseases. We can see tremendous benefits here in head and neck cancer because of the fine areas we're looking at. Cardiac evaluation, liver metastases, colorectal cancer, prostate cancer, bone and soft tissues. But I think the big one is here. It's pediatrics. Because there is no dose to the patient except for the dose of FDG, which could be 2 to 3 millicuries. So potential is now reality. I mean, this is a case that really speaks volume. You got an MR, an MRS, which is spectroscopy, indicating high-grade melanoma in the left hemisphere. And once we've done PET with carbon-11 labeled MET, reveal additional pathological cell growth in the right hemisphere as well. So this is something that was not shown before. Now we can see that there's huge uptake in this area. And we see other indications whereby we can look at the whole body and with high contrast to identify small and diffuse metastases, also enabling superb lesion detection and differentiation. And at the end, simultaneous PET and MR support detection and monitoring, I believe prostate cancer, but of course other cancers. And potential is reality. Indeed, we can see it in pediatric in the future as more people will put their hands on this particular technology and explore the potentials. As I said earlier, we are going to see tremendous benefits for our patients going forward. And with that slide, I will say thank you.